So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a single door wooden fence gate, a beefy, large double door wooden fence gate, and how to build a very strong and long-lasting wooden fence. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks that make this a very DIY doable project. Today I'm going to build the gate, and I put these posts in yesterday to make the gate opening. And this gate is going to swing this way in, and I'm going to show you how I got it done. So one of the most important things was getting this post in just right, and you can see I beefed it up. This is two 4x4 pressure treated posts, and it is concreted with a lot of concrete into the ground. This is nice and plumb, so this is going to be where it hinges. This is going to take all the force, the leverage from the gate itself, so this has to be stout, this has to be beefy, it just has to not move. So the two 4x4s and the bunch of concrete should do the trick, plus it's tied in to the rest of the fence, so I think we're going to be good here. So to figure out my frame size, first thing I need to do is measure my opening, and I'm about 56.5. My fence height will be somewhere around 6 feet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the frame about 5 feet tall and about an inch shorter than this width here. So let's start making the frame. So the width is the more critical dimension here, so I'm going to measure the width of the frame first, and I'm going to do it about an inch shy of the actual width of the opening. So in my case, that's going to be 55.5. So I got to cut two pieces at 55.5, and then I got to cut my height pieces as well, which I'm going to do somewhere around 5 feet, but that's not real critical if I'm on or off a couple inches. So now I'm going to cut the height pieces, two of these, and I'm just cutting mine in this case around 5 feet. And of course I need two pieces of this. So what I'm going to do with my width pieces of frame is I'm going to come down half the width of the board, make a mark. So we're going to cut like this, make a line like this. It's about half the width of the board, and then the width of the 2x4. And then I'm going to cut that notch out, and then that will give us a little bit of a joint, which will help quite a bit with strength. So I'm going to do that for both joints on the top side, and then again on the bottom side as well. So we'll cut these out the bottom, this out of the top. The joints slide in like that, and then I'll put two screws in here, and then I'll probably put some glue in there as well. To attach my joints, use some glue. Slide that in there like that, just to help get a square fitting. Let's use a speed square here. Okay, so I'm going to put my first screw right here. So now what I want to do is run a brace from this corner to that corner, and it's important that this be the hinge side of the gate and that be the outside of the gate. And then what happens is as you get leverage on the gate, it's going to push down, that brace is going to push back on this hinge. So I'm going to run it this way. I'm going to make some angle cuts. So the easy way to do that. Now time to cut them. So after I glued this joint, I want a toenail into it, but I want to keep it clean, so I'm going to pre-drill my toenails. I think what I'll do is one this way and then one this way. That's what I'm going to do. This step is where I'm taking in a not so traditional approach. And what I did is I tacked up these scrap pieces of board here, and I'm actually going to temporarily screw my door frame off to this. And I just think it's a little easier way to get it in place, and then I can go ahead and deck it out and put the hinges on, and then when I'm done I just take the braces off. Okay, now that I got two screws on from the other side, I'm actually going to tack it off on this side so I can go ahead and put my fence pickets on the other side. Now it's in place. So my goal when I was building this, I really wanted to keep the gate as light as possible. I was going to try to eliminate putting a piece in here, but I decided I want to go ahead and use 3 hinges, and I want to have some more backing for my pickets. It's going to make the gate heavier, but I'm hoping with the extra hinge it's going to be okay. So I'm just going to run some cut pieces I made to go directly across, one here, and I will toenail them in. One of the problems when doing the fence this way is you block yourself off, so that's fun. Before I go ahead and put the pickets on, I need to make sure to remove the screws I have on this side. So now I'm going to go ahead and tack up my pickets, and I'm just going to use galvanized hot dip 2-inch nails, and I'm going to kind of arbitrarily pick a height, and I'm going to go ahead and put one picket on each end first and do about a 2x4 space in between each one, and then kind of figure out the space in the middle as I go. And then I'll ultimately put 2 nails in each horizontal beam. I'm just going to tack up them for now. Okay, now I'm going to do that side. Okay, and just for precision, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a line from this one to this one, and then that will keep all my pickets the same height. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave about 1.5 inch space between the pickets. I'm going to use a 2x4. I'll put my 2x4 here, set this next one up to the line, and then I'm going to work my way to the center for my spacing. Alright, for these last two, if I put a 2x4 on each side, they're going to be like that. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball the spacing to get them about where they need to be, tack them off, then we'll come back and add the nails to the remaining to get them all nice secure. Then it's onto the hinge side. So now I'm back on the back side of the gate, and it's time to go ahead and put my hinges on. This is the hinge here. We want to put it on the post, and then obviously this beam here. Try to keep it level too. That looks good. I'm going to pre-drill this first screw here. Start that one. Screw it down. These are nice heavy-duty stainless hinges. The screws aren't real big, but there's a bunch of them. And since we're going straight into the post, I think we're okay. Keep it nice and level. Now I can drill my second screw. And then from there, I'm going to put a screw in here, and then I'm going to put a screw in every one of these holes, or a pre-drilled screw, and then I'm going to do that for the other 2 hinges as well. Okay, now I can tighten these down, and I got a bunch more screws to do. So I'm going to put 2 more hinges. I'm going to put one here in the middle, one here at the bottom. I'm going to do the bottom one first, and then the middle one last. And then these hinges are stainless as well. They're heavy duty, but they're not quite as big as that one. I figured go ahead and get a real big one for the top. And then these are still pretty beefy, but they're just not quite as big. So putting them down there, that top one should have the most force on it. Put these smaller ones, these other spots, and we should be good. Okay, all 3 hinges are attached. Now to take off the boards holding it up and see what happens. Okay, so the only thing left holding this gate, well, hopefully now the hinges are, the only thing left holding it prior to the hinges is my scrap board here. Already took the bottom one off. Let's start on that screw, take this screw out, and hope it doesn't drop big time. We'll see. All right, the moment of truth. I'm gonna take this screw out and hope the gate doesn't sag. Well, it's out. Doesn't look like it sagged. Let's open it up, see if it does. Whew. There it is. Perfect. Works great. Pretty impressed with how it all turned out. Using those temporary braces seemed to be the way to go. Made for a perfect fence, so very happy about it. Next thing I need to do is just put the latches on, and this is a done deal. So in today's video, I'm going to show how I built this beefy double door wooden gate. You're going to want to stick around to the end because I'm going to share why I think this is the most important step to help ensure that your gate doesn't sag. Okay, so here is the space here. I'm going to put a double gate going this way. I start off, I set a string line that's relatively level, and I found my center point. And I know I want my door to be about 8.5 feet wide, or at least the rough opening to be 8.5 feet wide. So I found my center point. I marked there, and over here will be where my post will go on this side. And then I have another mark over there. And then the next step is to just use a post hole diggers, dig a deep and fat hole. So we're going to put 2 posts on each side and a lot of concrete to hold it. That's important to note before you dig any holes, before building a fence or anything. You really need to know where your underground utilities are, and there's services in every county that I'm aware of that will come out and do that for you.
Anyway, I know there's no utilities or pipes or anything here. However, it seems like every post hole I dig for this fence, there's rocks and roots and it's a pain in the butt. So it takes a lot longer than anticipated to dig these holes. Into my holes dug, I'm going to put my posts in the ground, and I'm using two 4x4s bolted together. Good watch. So once I get the pole plumb, I run these braces. All right, so there it is, cemented in place. Then we'll come back and do the same thing over here. So I went ahead and I have both poles set now, and then I went ahead and framed out and actually fenced this portion of the opening here. And now what this will do is add additional support in addition to the concrete we already placed. So the next step is to get an accurate measurement in our space here and to start making the gate. So I went ahead and cut all my gate framing pieces. My space is about 102 inches. It's about 8.5 feet. I made my total frame about an inch smaller than that. And then this is actually going to be 2 doors, but I'm gonna go ahead and build one big door first and then cut it into the 2 doors. What I'm just gonna do here is do simple butt joints. I'm gonna use these really long lag type screws. And to help get a square configuration, I went ahead and I clamped a speed square to the side of this, get a screw started. I'll screw the whole thing together and then I'll check for squareness again, build this frame out and then put it in one piece. And then I think I'll cut it in 2 pieces later. We'll see how that goes. Now for my cross braces, I'm gonna use some old cedar I have left over from another project. I'll put it underneath, mark my lines, and then cut it out. The important thing is that that would be the bottom hinge, and it will point up towards the outside of the gate that will open. Just gonna mark it. Now that's all good, I can slide it in, and then I'll use the long screws to go into there too. Now I'm using the cedar here, one, because I have it, but 2, it allows me to use a little bit wider board. The cedar's pretty light and it's very rot resistant. And when I put these long lag type screws in, that's gonna really beef up these joints as well. And I'll do the same thing, put 1 here and 2 down there as well. All right, so this one's in. I'm gonna come back and put a screw in here as well after I cut this, and then I'm gonna repeat that process on this side. So with this, and these joints are gonna be pretty snug. Now to beef up these opposite corners, I went ahead and I cut some scrap cedar wood to make braces like that, and then I'll just use the long lag screws as well to snug that down. And that will stiffen these joints that don't have the ankle brace in it, make these joints nice and stiff and keep it square. So I'm just going to temporarily screw off these 2 scrap boards here, and then I can actually mount my gate frame to this, get a nice square and plumb, and then once everything's hinged and ready to go, we can take these down and the gate should be right where it needs to be. So now I have the gate frame exactly where I want an opening. I can go ahead and temporarily screw it off to these temporary brace boards. Now with the gate frame braced off, I can go ahead and cut the 2 gates free because they're going to be supported by this. And get the cleanest cut, I'm just going to use a handsaw with a speed square to help guide it. Now I can install the hinges. I'm using these beefy 10-inch long stainless steel ones. I really think for outside gates, stainless steel is the way to go. Plus these are really robust. But the idea here is I'm going to put it about here, get the hinge in position. I'll mark my first hole. Trigger that hole. Hinge in. I'm going to start it with an impact and I'll finish it with a screwdriver. I'll mark my other holes, drill them out, and our hinge will be screwed on. So what I'm going to do now is instead of putting a traditional locking mechanism, I'm just going to put a brace bar. I'm going to use this beam that will sit on these blocks that I just installed. They'll just fly back and forth. You can open the gate. And what this does is actually gives the gate some more structure and wins. The little single gate latches just don't have a lot of oomph behind them, so I think this is a better way to go. And then what I'll do is come back and put these blocks in. They're attached to some screws. And then the concept behind this lock is you just take this board, move it out of the way, and the gate can swing open, shut the gate, slide it back over, and you got a little bit of beef holding your gate together. And there it is. Now we can cut the gate loose if we want. All right, moment of truth. I'm gonna take out these screws that are supporting the gate. Hopefully it doesn't sag. Put a little line here to see if it's gonna move or not. So here we go. Okay, gonna take this one out too. So this side is free and it didn't move. Let's try this one. Now it's flopping loose now. Looks like it's handling the load okay, but the door will open like this. So there we go. Open both sides. No sagging. I want to close it like this. Slide this across. And we're closed. So finally what I did is I installed these down rods, and they give some security and some stability to the fence down here in addition to up here. So when the gate is shut, this is nice and solid now. And all I gotta do is lift up on it. Then we can open the gate, and then to put it back down. And then to install these, I used a cinder block filled with concrete and used a piece of PVC pipe, and that should do the trick. And I also went ahead and installed one of these down rod holders so the gate can stay open. And again, this is just some PVC pipe down about a foot or so into the ground, secured in concrete. And it does the job to hold the fence door nice and stiff. So I think it's very important, if not one of the most important steps in making a double door gate, to have some sort of fixed open positioning lock system. And that's essentially what this is doing for us here. And so now here is our gate opened in a nice secured position. The wind's not going to flop these doors around, so it should minimize any damage that potentially be done if they were not secured. Works pretty well. So in this video, I'm going to show how I built this fence using pressure-treated lumber. I'm going to share my opinion on why I think building it this way is a much stronger option than buying pre-built fence panels.
So the first thing I did was I set up a string line from one end of where the new fence would terminate all the way down to the other end, and this was to ensure a straight fence line. I wanted my spacing to be 8 feet between the posts, so I made marks marking where the new post should go, and I started to dig my hole here. Now it's important to note to make sure you know where your utility lines are and all those things before you start digging. I went down about 3 feet or so and made a nice big hole. Then I could set my post, and then once that was in there, I needed to plumb the post. I needed to be level in both directions. Once it was there, made sure it was in place, and I temporarily braced it off with these braces. Now it was time to mix up some concrete, and I decided to use 2 80-pound bags of pre-mixed concrete per post, and I like to mix concrete like this with a mixing drill, and I basically just mix it till it gets to the consistency that I would like it. Then I just add the concrete to the hole, and then I compact it with a piece of scrap lumber just to make sure to fill that hole as best as possible. And then I happen to come back, use a scrap piece of wood, and just cleaned up the finish a little bit. This is going to be covered with landscaping, so no big deal.
Now I'll just let it sit overnight. There we go, nice solid fence post.
Now for my fence framing, I'm using 16-foot 2x4s. And I start with the top framing board and I attach it to the fence post using a framing nailer and 3-inch galvanized nails. Now the 16-foot board works well because it spans 3 posts. After the top framing board is attached, I come back and I attach the bottom framing board. Now when I come back to install the middle framing board, you'll notice that the seams don't overlap. The middle board does not line up with the seams of the top and bottom framing boards. And this is what makes this fence incredibly strong, much stronger than you building a fence with pre-built fence panels. Essentially doing it this way ties the fence into one big fence piece. Now for picket spacing, I made a simple jig out of a 2x4. When I slide it up against a picket, it makes a 3.5-inch gap, which is perfect for my fence picket spacing. And I'm just attaching the pickets using 2-inch galvanized nails.
So I ran a string line up here, and that's how I know where to put my picket boards. Just get them almost close where they don't touch within a 16th of an inch or so. Check it off. Put 2 nails in each. You see how the pickets are all in line with the string. Nice and level. So this is a privacy fence, so I come and fill in these gaps on the backside with more pickets. And I do the same process. I just flush it up to my line, a spacer block, flush this up to the line. I go. Double check for level. It's good.
And from this point out, I just repeat these processes to complete the fence. I keep framing and I add pickets. I space them at 3 inches on both sides of the fence, and I end up with a very strong, very good looking fence. What's nice about this is it does allow a little bit of a light gappage. When you look at the fence from the angle, it also allows some wind through, but when you do approach the fence dead on or at like a 90-degree angle, you do get complete privacy. So the fence turned out great and it's very strong. So I appreciate you watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing.